Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? This is Mr. Murphy. I hope you are here to do some learning, and I'm here to teach you a little bit about Adobe Premiere Pro today. And that's this little bit of software that you see right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do you an introduction to Adobe Premiere Pro. And then the next video will roll into our first project, which will be our slideshow project. So for right now, we're just going to take a look at what we have right here with Adobe Premiere Pro and the different parts of it, okay? So you don't have to be overwhelmed. I'll give you a little bit of history about Adobe Premiere Pro as far as we're concerned. We started using Adobe Premiere many years ago, actually, here when we started getting computers, to be honest with you. We started editing from analog to digital, and this really didn't happen for us until the mid-2000s or maybe early 2000s. But at that time, we had some very bad computers, and they didn't process Adobe Premiere Pro very well. So we went to some less expensive, but still very good software. And I guess that's one thing to tell you is Adobe is fairly expensive. If you want to, if you're a serious video and photo editor and you want to do some animation and everything that Adobe can do for you, it's about $30 a month for a subscription, but it is constantly updated to the newest versions. So that's actually an advantage of, getting Adobe the suite. It's called the Creative Suite, if you will. So it does include a lot of different things from Photoshop to After Effects to Illustrator, and so it is worth it if you're serious about it. But if you're not going to use it that much, then you can go with what we went with, which was just Sony Movie Studio. And actually, you can just buy the software probably online now. We used to buy it at Best Buy, but now you could get it online, and it probably cost you about $50 and you can have it forever. So that's a pretty good deal. And we had a lot of success with those, but we feel that Adobe, because of the updates that it does every year, it does a new update. We feel that it works really well, and we're really happy with it. So here's what we're going to look at. So if you take a look right here at the screen, what you're going to see is you're kind of going to see for lack of a better word, it's kind of a splash screen right here. So this will come up, and yours will probably look different because yours will have some kind of a, hints on what to do, et cetera, et cetera. But for the most part, they'll all kind of look the same. And you'll have this option for opening a new project or opening an existing project. Now, if this window does not appear, you might just get, a blank screen, okay? And actually, you probably won't get a blank screen if you open a project that's already existing. But what you'll want to do in this case right here is you're just going to go to, let me see if this is open. Yes. All right, just go to File and create a new project. Now, here's the other thing that that's kind of new with Adobe Premiere Pro, which I think is kind of a response to the pandemic. This video is created in 2020 when the pandemic was still existing. In fact, it's election night 2020, November 3rd. So we're awaiting results, but be that as it may, let's get back to our project right here. The new thing that I'm seeing, and maybe I didn't notice it before, is that they now have team projects. So that means that somehow you can collaborate with this production, and which is kind of good because at some point this year, you will be collaborating with someone on a project, and because of the pandemic, you can't work together in the same suite. So collaborating will allow you each to participate in the project and kind of do your part. But for this project, you're just going to create a new project, okay? So, we're not really going to do a project. I'm just going to give you a tutorial and kind of show you around Adobe Premiere Pro. But for the sake of the video, we're going to click New and Project, and you're going to get this screen right here. So this is the place where you're going to type in the name of your project. Now, here's something that's kind of important, and I'm kind of a stickler for this, even though I don't always remind you of it. Make sure that when you're working on a project in class, that it has your name on it. Okay, so I do prefer that when you start a new project, you do last name and then the name of the project. That way, because a lot of students have a tendency to just turn in projects and it'll say slideshow project. I don't know whose it is, because I don't know your family or your dog or your sports or whatever. So any project that you turn in and it's just you or collaborative, make sure that it has your name on it. A lot of times I get projects that are just untitled. And so this is untitled. And so we're going to stop it being untitled, and we're just going to type in the name of the project. So for this, for the sake of this illustration, we're just type in Marfi, and we're going to type in Tour, Premiere Pro Tour. All right, now we're not going to worry about any settings except for where we are going to save it to. This is a save location, okay? So what we want to do is you're going to hit browse, and you know, a lot of places you might work on a computer that's not yours, and that computer, as soon as you log off, deletes everything on the hard drive. And so you want to make sure that you always have your jump drive with you. So this is the place where you would plug your jump drive, whatever that's called, find it, and create a folder. And in this case, you know, I would create a new folder just called Premiere Pro. And within that folder, and I like to kind of be organized. And, you know, here's the thing, and this is a really good pro tip for you right now. A good pro tip is that you always stay organized. So always use folders and bins, because when you're using a lot of files, things can go into disarray and things can get confusing fast. So kind of set yourself up for success at the beginning, okay? So we're inside the Premiere Pro folder, and I'm just going to type in new folder, and I'm just going to type in the word tour. And as we do each individual project, we're going to be creating new folders called, you know, slideshow, music project, commercial, et cetera, music video. And we'll be keeping all our assets inside of those folders. So what's an asset? An asset is basically a file that's going to be inside of your project, okay? So again, we're inside the tour, and that's the folder we're going to use. Select folder, and now you'll see that it's going to save everything into my jump drive folder. We're good to go. Don't worry about scratch disk or ingest settings. The renderer is just a what's called an engine that renders it. That's just a bunch of code. And here's something that you want to do is check your display font, because when we worked with After Effects, a lot of times by default, it's going to show you kind of a frame default, which got a little bit confusing when we were working on the title project. So make sure that your display format is timecode, and timecode will be, you know, how you're going to organize your timeline. As far as your audio and everything else, don't worry about anything like that. And capture format, we don't really capture that much anymore, but capturing is basically plugging a camera into your computer and recording it as it plays. Now, you can do like some live broadcasts and then edit on the fly or add some things afterwards, but we're not going to do that, okay? And so keep this unchecked. Display the project item name and label color for all instances. Don't worry about that for now, and click OK. Okay, so here is our Adobe Premiere Pro screen. And so when you open a project, this is what it's going to look like, or it could look a little bit different. Now, why would it look different? Well, it would look different because you might select what's called a different workspace. So what's a workspace? Well, we've already learned about workspaces when we worked with After Effects, but a workspace in Premiere Pro, they're all set up on top over here. And the default is editing. And so the editing workspace is going to show you basically a preview or editing screen. Here's your program screen where you're going to see things going on, where you're going to see your finished project, okay? But you can actually go into an effects workspace if you want to do a lot of stuff with effects, and you know, you want to focus on a lot of different kinds of effects, and you can, of course, you know, switch back and forth between different workspaces. And that's kind of a nice thing that you can do that. Like I said, if you have a faster computer, this would always go a little bit faster for you. So here's the effects workspace, and it looks pretty similar except for the fact that you're going to see some effects over here. So if we want to work on some effects, which we might do with our music video or our commercial, you're going to use this space right here. The other thing you're going to see in the effects workspace are graphics. So it's basically After Effects graphics that have been pre-designed. These are kind of nice, so you don't have to create stuff in After Effects. And from here on out, I would recommend that you use this, but it's important that you learn how to create an animated, title, so you have some experience in that and you get to know After Effects and how that works. So I didn't want to give that away early, but from now on, if you want to use any of these preset credits, you can go ahead and do so. And there's some other sound effects. You want to add some effects. You want to hear something, of course, that we don't really think about so much, but it's pretty critical that you learn how to do some color correction. So we're going to do that this year for sure. And again, with color correction, there's different kinds of things. We don't have any clips on there, so you're not going to see any color correction right now. Let's do this. And history is really nice too, because if you mess up, you can always go back to where you messed up and find your way back. So that is the effects workspace. And really all it does is it adds the effects panel to this side. Now you can switch back to editing mode, which we're going to in a second. If you want to delete any one of these panels, just click on the 3 lines over here, and you can just close the panel and the panel will go away. So if you want to change some things around and basically have a custom workspace, you're certainly able to do that in Adobe Premiere Pro and work in the way that makes you comfortable and the way that will make you more successful. We're going to switch back to the editing workspace. And basically what you'll see is, again, this will be eliminated and things will be stretched out a little bit. So in order to start, let's go ahead and add a clip, and we'll go from there. Okay. All right. So in order to start, well, let me just quickly show you around real quick. Obviously, this is a Windows program, and just like all Windows programs, you have your windows, your different bar, if you will, up here. So you can select different things that you'll want to do, and we'll be using some of these more as the year goes on. Up here, like I said, these are your different workspaces. This one right here will bring up that page that came up at the beginning for some of you, and if it didn't, you can just hit that home button and it'll bring that up for you. Okay, but we're just going to X out of that. This is our program screen where we're going to see our project as as we're working on it. And these are just some control buttons and some editing buttons that we'll use a little bit later. Most of the editing, you won't really do it here. The editing will happen in here for the most part, with your effects and some other things that you'll be adding on there, and on the timeline itself. And so that brings me to the timeline. The timeline is this area right here where you will put your clips or your instances or your assets or whatever you want to call it. Different programs call it different stuff. But for the most part, it's where you're going to drop your media, and then you're going to drop it in a linear fashion, or not if you want to do some different kind of editing. Here is our location, if you will, our time code. And again, this is SMPTE time code. So it starts with hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. Okay, so those are, again, this is where we're going to drop some files. This right here are tools. You'll see there's not a lot of tools in Adobe Premiere Pro. You really don't need a lot of tools. Now there's some just to select your clips. So there's a selection tool, and the shortcut for that is just Control V. This right here is a track select forward tool, which basically means that if you have a lot of tracks and you want to select everything from one point forward, you can click on that and it'll select all the clips from there on out. This is just a ripple edit tool. This is a very important tool. The razor tool allows us to make cuts. This is our slip tool. It's kind of like the ripple edit tool, except that you can slip things on top of each other. A pen tool, which we used obviously and you see there's some embedded tools as well. All right, so I don't want to tell you that it's limited tools, because there is embedded tools here. So you'll see some different embedded tools that are also available to you. And so these are the tools, and this is the text tool. And the text tool is just like we used in Adobe After Effects. Okay, this is where our libraries are. This is where we're going to import all our clips into this area right here. And we can add clips, or or we can just import them using various tools. And again, we do some editing here in our effects in Adobe Premiere Pro. So let's go ahead and import some instances or some assets or some files or some clips, whatever you want to call them. We're going to do this now. Okay, so in order to import, there's a couple different ways to do it. You can go the old-fashioned way, and this is the long way. You can go on Clip or File. You can go to Import, and you can just import different pictures and photos, etc., etc. Okay, so that's the long way of doing it, and that's fine. Or you can go here to the libraries, and these are all different libraries that are by default, since I've been doing some stuff in Animate, they come up here. Okay. All right, so Adobe gave me a little default view. So you gotta make sure that if you don't see this right here where it says your project name, you click this drop-down arrow, click on this where it says project, and now you can do what I want it to do, which is double-click right here, and it's gonna open up your hard drive folders. And from this point, obviously, is where you can import some tools. So I'm gonna go right here to a project that we worked on earlier this year. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to import some pictures. Okay, so here's a bunch of photographs that we used on the 2020 senior graduation slideshow. And I'm just going to select a few of them by selecting the first one, clicking on it, just scrolling down, and I'm just going to hit the Shift button and click down. So select, as you can see, I've selected a bunch of clips, and I'm going to click Open. And you'll see files are being imported, and the files are imported straight into this Adobe Premiere Pro tool folder. But that's a problem. And the problem is that, again, it's all about organization. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you create some bins, all right? Bins are basically folders inside of Adobe Premiere Pro. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a bin called Still Photographs. And just like you do with Photoshop, there's like some different options down here. So I'm going to click on New Bin. Again, the bin is just another name that Premiere uses for a folder. Click on that, and I'll give the bin a name called Still Photos. All right, so that's the name of that bin. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab all these files and I'm going to drag them into that bin. So again, I'm going to hit the Shift button and I'll just drag them into the bin. And you will see all my items inside the bin. And in order to go back to, I can just go here, and I'm going to create another bin called Video. All right, so I'm going to delete that because that was the bin inside the bin. So I want to make sure I'm back outside. Create a new bin called Video. All right, and that's how you create bins in Premiere Pro. So now I'm going to import a video. I'm just going to double click on here. I'm going to, and I'll just click on here. And again, this is just a video that was created for senior graduation. So you'll see that we have the bins are inside of my main folder. And again, we can also access the bins by clicking this. So this space might get busy as you add more stuff, but you can always go back to this part right here. Okay, so this is how you create bins. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put some instances, or we're going to put something in here. Now, again, this is just a tutorial for how to use Adobe Premiere Pro. Okay, So let's first start with some video. And we only have one video clip, so we'll just grab it and we're just going to drag it right into our space right here. You'll see a plus sign appear next to the hand, and you just drop it in here. Doesn't really matter. As soon as you drop it, it's going to go automatically add itself to the beginning of the clip. And now some new stuff has happened. You have some stuff called headers over here. Now, there's two types of headers. There's headers for video, and you can see there's 3 video headers up here. So these are basically 3 separate timelines for video. And then we have audio headers over here. So as you can see, there's fairly small, you can see a small thumbnail over here. And if you hover over it, you're going to see some information about it. That's not really important right now. But if you want this to be bigger, double click on here, double click. And you can see that that clip got bigger. If you want the audio to be bigger, double click on there. And you'll see that my audio got bigger. All right, so if I want to do some editing, I can. And if I want to bring it back to its original size, double click, double click. Now you can see obviously that, you know, if you're using multiple screens, which I'm actually doing this right now, I have a dual screen setup, that you do need space. So if you want to get yourself a big monitor, if you want to get serious about it, so you can have some space and you can move some things around. You can always increase your workspace just manually by doing stuff like that. All right. So you don't really need a lot of space to watch what's going on over here. But again, this is our video, this is our audio, and we can just press play right here. And as we press play, our video will appear in preview mode right here. And the audio will be playing as well. But I'm not playing the audio on this one. So you can see this is the video. And it's fairly good resolution. Because it was produced last year. Now, you can see right here that we have an audio meter, and you can adjustments here. You can see so now I'm going to use find a spot to make a cut. I can make a cut, and I'm going to make another cut. Okay, I go back to my selection tool, and now with my selection tool, I can select different parts of the video, and I can delete them. Hit delete. All right, I'm going to hit Control Z and bring it back. I can do a ripple delete by right-clicking. Okay. All right, so I can't really access. There we go. So our clip is pretty small. Our space is pretty small. If I right-click, I get all these options. So this one right here is called ripple delete, and when I hit ripple delete, everything after this clip will automatically shift over to the end of where it says that first clip that says alma mater finish. Ripple delete, and you see everything shifted over. So unlike our regular delete, where we just hit the delete button, that nothing shifted, there was no ripple delete. So that's kind of a handy tool. All right. So let's take one of these clips right here. Oh, so let's take one of these slipping and sliding tools. This is the ripple edit tool. And with the ripple edit, again, well, now we're just doing some advanced editing here. Let's save the ripple edit tool for a different project. I don't want to get too bogged down in these things. So for now, let's just worry about what we have going on right here. I'm going to hit Control Z and bring everything back to our normal view. Okay, here's our razor blade again. All right. Okay, so now let's add an effect to this clip right here. Now, when we click on the clip, if we go right here to Effect Controls, it's going to open up all these effects. And at this point, we can add different effects to this clip right here. And actually, I'm going to save some of these effects when we do pictures, because we're going to do that for our next project for the slideshow. But here you can add some different effects to your clips. And if you scroll down, you'll find different things that will be available to you, including, so just like with our headers, all the video effects will be on top. All the audio effects will be on the bottom. And so right here is where we're going to turn down the volume, but that will only turn down the volume for this one clip. All right, I'm not going to add any zoom or anything like that right now. So let's just go and not add any effects to this right now. We can add some different effects to it later, but let's go ahead and just delete this. So I can just scrub it, delete, and take those out. And I'm going to go to the still photos. And I'm going to bring some still photos into the project. I'm going to start from this photo, and I'm just going to scroll down, hit Shift, and just drag them into here. Okay. Now, these are just still pictures. There's no audio with still pictures. We will add some audio later. The other thing is everything seems a little bit squished. Now, by default, all pictures are 5 seconds long. So we want to make everything stretch out a little bit. You can see these handles right here on the bottom. These are nice because you can now expand your look a little bit. And you'll see now the title of each one of these clips. My computer's a little laggy right now. If I want to go back to the beginning, time code, hit the number 0, and that's going to take me back to the beginning of the project. Here's our very first clip. And again, if we want to squish everything in, we can. You know, obviously we can move some things around just to make a little bit more space if we wanted to. All right, so let's do some transitions before we do anything else. Let me show you some transitions. Okay, so what do we mean by transitions? Well, for transitions, what you want to do is we're going to add some different kind of effects, if you will, to our between our clips. So we're going to go right here to where it says effects, and we're going to see a bunch of preset effects. So we have some presets, we have some audio effects, and we have some video effects. But now we're going to look at some video transitions. And we're going to add a dissolve or a cross dissolve between these clips right here. Because right now, when I hit play, it's going to hit play this for 5 seconds, and then it's going to cut immediately to my next clip. Okay, so that's not good. So we're going to add a dissolve, and we'll just use a old-fashioned cross dissolve and drag that into here. We want to make sure that it's right in between the two clips. And now when I hit play, you'll see that it's going to cross dissolve from one clip to the next. Okay. Now, real quick with effects, if you want to add some video effects to a clip, you want to blur it, do a camera blur, just drag it and drop it inside the clip. And there's our camera blur. And within the blur itself, we'll be able to make some adjustments if we need to. We can adjust the percentage of the blur if we want to. Okay, so those are all just video effects. So those are all the different parts of Adobe Premiere. This video took a little longer than I thought, but it's kind of important that we become familiar with how to use Adobe Premiere Plus. And of course, the most important thing that you should always do is always save your project, because computers crash, and when computers crash, you will lose all your information. So I think that wraps up our little introductory tour for today, and that's where we're going to leave it. So our next video will be about using to create our slideshow. So we'll come back to these tools, and we'll add some more tools and effects for our slideshow project.